You've probably heard that story about the janitor who died a secret multimillionaire, right? It always gets treated like a one in a billion fluke, like winning the lottery. But what if it's not? What if it's actually a clue to a hidden pattern about money? A pattern that explains why some of the smartest people on Wall Street go broke, while people with totally ordinary jobs build incredible fortunes. All right, let's get into it.
And this is the central puzzle. I mean, it goes against everything we're taught about money and success. How on earth does someone with zero financial training manage to outperform a top executive with a fancy MBA? The answer to this question, it's going to completely change how you think about building wealth. And get this, these are real people. On the left, you've got Ronald Read. This guy spent his life fixing cars and sweeping floors. His strategy? It was brutally simple. Save what little he could, buy shares in solid, big-name companies, and then he just waited. For decades. The result? He left behind an $8 million fortune. Now, on the right, Richard Fuscone, Harvard MBA, a top executive at Merrill Lynch. He borrowed millions to fund this gigantic mansion with 2 swimming pools, 2 elevators. The upkeep was reportedly $90,000 a month. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit, and poof, it was all gone. Total bankruptcy.
And that story right there reveals the hidden pattern. Building wealth has almost nothing to do with how smart you are. It has everything to do with how you behave. See, money isn't a hard science with perfect formulas. It's a soft skill, and it's all about psychology. So, what are the pieces of this skill? Let's break them down.
Okay, first up, we have to talk about the 2 giant forces that are always in the room, even when we try to ignore them: luck and risk. Think of them like these powerful currents that can just totally sweep you away, no matter how smart you are or how hard you paddle. Let's talk about Bill Gates. The guy's a certified genius, no question. But he also had a 1 in a million stroke of pure luck. Back in 1968, he went to Lakeside School, one of the only high schools on the entire planet that had a computer. That kind of access was an insane head start. But luck has a dark twin: risk. Gates had a best friend, Kent Evans, who everyone said was just as brilliant. They were planning to start a company together, but Kent was killed in a mountaineering accident before they even graduated. So you see, one life was hit by 1 in a million good luck, the other by 1 in a million bad luck. It's the same force, just pointing in opposite directions. And this isn't just about famous people, you know? Look at what we could call the generational lottery. If you were born in 1970, the stock market went up 10 times over while you were in your teens and 20s. So your experience taught you that stocks are a rocket ship to wealth. But what if you were born just 20 years earlier? The market was basically flat for your entire youth. Your experience taught you stocks were a total sucker's bet. So these external forces, they can shape our entire view of the world. But what about the forces inside our own heads? So if luck and risk are the external game we can't really control, what's the internal one? Well, it's the battle against an enemy that lives inside every single one of us, the goalpost that just never, ever stops moving. This quote, man, it just captures it perfectly. The author Kurt Vonnegut was at a party with Joseph Heller, the guy who wrote Catch-22. Vonnegut points out that their billionaire host made more money in a single day than Heller's masterpiece had earned in its entire history. And Heller's reply was, yes, but I have something he will never have: enough. Wow. That skill, just knowing when you have enough, it's a financial superpower. And on this slide, we see what happens when you lose that superpower. Rajat Gupta was the CEO of McKinsey, sitting on a personal fortune of $100 million. But he desperately wanted to be a billionaire. So he gambled it all on an insider trading scheme and lost everything, including his reputation. Then there's Bernie Madoff. Before the infamous Ponzi scheme, he ran a perfectly legal business that was making him between 25 and 50 million bucks a year. But it wasn't enough. They both risked what they had and needed for something they absolutely didn't have and didn't need. The reason this happens is because they're playing a game that is literally impossible to win, the game of social comparison. A rookie baseball player making $500,000 a year feels poor next to the superstar making $36 million. But then the superstar feels poor next to the hedge fund manager making $340 million. And you know what? They all feel poor compared to Jeff Bezos. The ceiling just keeps getting higher and higher. The only way to win this game is to refuse to play it. Okay, so if the key isn't being a genius or getting lucky, and it's not even about having enough, then what is it? Well, now we get to the master key, the single most powerful and, honestly, the most misunderstood force in all of finance: time. The best way to understand compounding is to think about how an ice age starts. It doesn't begin with some crazy catastrophic blizzard. No, it starts with a summer that's just a little too cool to melt all of last winter's snow. That tiny leftover base of snow makes it easier for more snow to pile up the next year. That reflects more sunlight, which makes the air even cooler, which lets even more snow stick around. And that tiny little advantage eventually compounds into a sheet of ice that's miles thick. That's the logic-defying power of compounding.
Which, of course, brings us to Warren Buffett. We all know the name, we all know the incredible number, and we just assume his success is all about his investing genius. But that's not the real story. And this right here, this might be the single most important slide of this entire explainer. If Warren Buffett had started investing at a normal age, like 30, and retired at a normal age, say 60, his net worth wouldn't be $84.5 billion. It would be about $12 million. A staggering 99.9% of his wealth was earned after his 65th birthday. The moment I really understood that, everything just clicked. In fact, if you just look at the raw numbers, Buffett isn't even the best investor out there. There's a hedge fund manager named Jim Simons who's generated returns of 66% a year. That is 3 times better than Buffett's average. But Simons is worth a fraction of what Buffett is. Why? Because Buffett started investing when he was 10 years old. He's had decades longer for that compounding ice age to work its magic. So let's just be really clear about this. Buffett's skill is being a fantastic investor, no doubt. But his real secret, the engine that built that unbelievable fortune, is that he's been a fantastic investor for more than 3/4 of a century. His secret is time. And all of this leads us to the final, and I think the most important piece of the puzzle. This is your actionable intelligence. This is the strategic advantage you can start using today. And it all comes down to one word: survival. Because here's the thing that nobody ever talks about. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are 2 completely different skills. Getting wealthy, that takes risks, optimism, putting yourself out there. But staying wealthy, that requires the total opposite. It requires humility, a healthy dose of paranoia, and accepting that the money you've made, it can be taken away from you in a heartbeat. Just look at the stock market. Over its history, something like 40% of all public companies have basically gone to zero. Most of the rest have been just meh. Nearly all of the market's total returns have come from a tiny handful of companies, maybe 7% of the total. The lesson here isn't to get good at finding that 7%. The lesson is that failure is normal. Your goal isn't to be right all the time. Your goal is to survive long enough so you're still in the game when one of those big winners eventually shows up. And that right there, that's the survival mindset. The goal isn't to chase the highest possible returns. The goal is to make yourself financially unbreakable so that you are guaranteed to be around long enough for compounding to work its wonders for you. So what does this actually mean for you? It means you have to plan on your plan not going according to plan. It means you build a margin of safety into everything. You become what you might call a paranoid optimist. You're optimistic about the long term, but you're paranoid about all the chaos that can happen in the short term. And above all else, you avoid ruin at all costs. As the great thinker Nassim Taleb put it, having an edge and surviving are 2 different things. The first requires the second. Your edge is completely useless if you don't survive. Survival is the absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite. You have to avoid ruin. So in the end, the real secret to building wealth isn't about being a genius who finds the next big thing. It's about longevity. It's about building a financial plan that is so durable, so unbreakable, that it guarantees you will be around long enough to see compounding work its incredible magic. So the real question to leave you with is this: how unbreakable is your plan?